Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. In this update, we are going to check out Avalanche's price chart and see what's happening in the short term and based on the recent price action, what might be the next likely move. But before we get into all that real quick, we are going to talk about this important article about Avalanche because this is basically suggesting that AVAX at the moment is moving forward in three major areas at the same time. Number one, naturally, is going to be RWA. Number two is actually going to be surprisingly Asian market expansion. And number three, also naturally, is going to be AI integrations. So let's start with the biggest headline in here, which as you can see is FUSD launching on Avalanche. Now, it's very important to understand that FUSD is not necessarily like a typical DeFi stablecoin. No, FUSD is backed by regulated financial products like, for example, government bonds and also money market funds through major institutions, and that matters quite a lot because large financial firms, is very important to understand, they simply cannot use risky yield firms. However, they can actually use regulated instruments like this one, FUSD. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with FUSD, you should know that they are actually mainly active and they are mainly targeting Asian markets, like for example, Hong Kong, Japan, and also South Korea. And these regions are right now building structured crypto regulations. And by positioning there, okay, I think we can safely assume that AVAX is trying to enter a serious financial market, meaning what? Fundamental wise, at least in this area, seems like that we are indeed on the right direction, and this is only and only step one. The Fincoin protocol is planned next, which focuses mainly on full issuance and management of tokenized real world assets, and that means what? Avalanche is essentially aiming to become infrastructure for digitized traditional finance in Asia. And again, this is definitely a big goal. I fully understand this. And here's the deal, I'm not actually that optimistic. I don't really think they are going to attract all the adoption. However, let's just consider this. Let's consider Avalanche attracting just a bit of adoption. Even that, in my view, is going to be fantastic for the price of Avalanche's token. Now, let's talk about the network activity because this is really important. Why is it important? Because you might say, well, okay, AVAX, based on what we talked about, is actually moving in these directions, but this is not necessarily going to translate to more and more activity on the network and ultimately better price appreciation for the token. But may I suggest think again, because we are already seeing some interesting signs when it comes to, again, network activity. You should note that the Avalanche C chain recently hit 1.9 million active addresses, which is basically like a 6-month high. And after months and months of a slow movement, this was, in my view, definitely a sharp breakout, and active addresses, in my opinion at least, matter quite a lot because they measure real interaction, not just some locked capital. Now, in terms of TVL, it actually dropped slightly over the week, but daily transactions actually increased by quite a bit, and that tells us something very, very important, which is this. Activity is essentially shifting from passive capital sitting in DeFi to users actually using the network, which is awesome. This is actually going to be the thing that is going to cause price appreciation for the token in the mid to long term. So in conclusion, when you combine number one, regulated financial products, number two, rising user activities, and number three, institutional involvement, and also gaming infrastructure quite a bit, and at the end, AI tooling, okay, you're essentially looking at expanding demand for the block space. And in the short term, again, I'm trying to be as honest as it gets. Price still reacts in the short term, mostly to Bitcoin and also what is going on in terms of technical analysis in AVAX's chart in like very, very short term. But mid to long term, I think value usually follows real usage and real economic activity. And this, my friends, is why I am so optimistic, and I fully understand being optimistic while at the same time we are in a beautiful looking downtrend is like really annoying, and you don't really want anybody to tell you when we are going down what a great project Avalanche actually is. This, I fully understand, is absolutely going on your nerve, but I would argue it is specifically during these times that you need to understand what kind of a project are you buying, okay? Why is that? Because if you believe in fundamentals of the project that you are investing, and again, let me just tell you one more time, when it comes to fundamentals, my research and what I'm talking about in every single update should not be your foundation for any type of research about your projects, okay? You should build 100% of your foundation yourself, do your full due diligence, come up with your own conclusion, and then, for example, if you think in this case Avalanche is a great token and it does have a bright future, okay, then at that point feel free to watch some YouTube videos, maybe not even mine, in order to keep yourselves updated. But the thing is, if you fully believe in your project, and I do in case of AVAX, okay, right around the lows, as we are just constantly going lower and lower, from my POV, it's just going to be a buy opportunity, and only if I have full conviction, I am going to buy the dips right in here. If you do not have conviction, you know what? You're just going to be scared of more and more downward price action. That's why a lot of people do not really buy the lows. They usually tend to, unfortunately, buy the tops, and on the other hand, sell the lows when they are extremely frustrated. And that, unfortunately, is why many people in this market lose a whole lot of money. Now, let's talk about what is going on in like very short term, and essentially this is sort of kind of what we talked about. Let's go on H1 time frame. If you remember, the last time that we talked about AVAX, we were, I think, somewhere around these areas, and the idea was that, well, okay, if we want to be bullish and we want to argue, yeah, you know what, maybe we have hit our final low, then okay, we have to be able to find in this region a 5 wave on the upside. And the main idea was, this is 1, this is 2, this is wave 3, and we said odds are this is correction for 4, and then we are going to have another move up into wave 5. Question, did we get this move up and in it? Did we take this important high? Let's just hide everything. As you can see, no, we did get like a very small bounce, but in it we did not take this important high. And also, this bounce is actually so choppy to a degree that I'm not really convinced calling it, I don't know, maybe some sort of a truncated wave 5 right in here. I do not believe that this was our wave 5. Now, this is actually sort of kind of our problem in Avalanche at the moment, because am I going to say this right in here is the end of our wave 4, and this is maybe yet another move on the upside into wave 5? I'm gonna be honest with you, such a scenario is actually possible, but is it the most likely one though? I'm going to say probably not. Why is that? A very important reason actually. You see, I think we can all safely agree that the shape and also the size of our corrections for wave 2 and 4 do not really match each other. And also in here, yep, we are clearly having overlapping of the waves between our wave 2 and 4. And if I just do this, measure the length of our wave 3 from this point to about the highs and put it at the beginning of our supposedly wave 5, not yet. No. Why am I doing this? Because there is one possibility suggesting maybe this is something called an expanding leading diagonal, and it looks like this. This is our initial move up into wave 1, correction for wave 2, a strong move up into wave 3, which has to be bigger than 1, correction for 4, it's going to be bigger than wave 2, and also unlike an impulse in here, we must have, in this case, overlapping of the waves between our wave 2 and 4, and this is our final move up into wave 5, and guess what, it must be the biggest wave in this structure. But based on what we just said, it seems like that in here, at least right now, this supposedly wave 5 to about this point is not really the biggest wave in here. So what is it that I'm trying to tell you? Look, there is a chance that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I don't know, maybe somehow if you go on some other charts, this wave 5 right in here is going to be bigger than wave 3, and in that case, fair enough. Maybe this is going to be an expanding leading diagonal, and because of it, maybe you are allowed to be a little bit optimistic. However, the structures, the overall shape of the bounce that right now at least we are having, I think it is actually saying something else. For example, here is one likely possibility actually. I'm thinking maybe this is A, this is B, this is C, simple as that. Followed by that, we are having a correction structure to about the lows, and in terms of the shape of it, yup, how about a beautiful pitch perfect W, X, Y, Z in form of a triple zigzag, and this I'm thinking is probably another ABC on the upside. Here is how this can be to about this point, an A leg correction for wave B, followed by maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up into our C leg. So on a higher degree, there is a chance that in AVAX we are having just a WXY in form of a double zigzag, meaning what? Maybe our move down is not actually over, and we are going to once more go down and visit the lows. Now, here's a very important point. What if I am actually wrong and in Avalanche the bottom is and this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in form of an expanding leading diagonal? Hey, guess what? What's gonna happen after completing a 5 wave on the upside? I think you know the answer if you are a regular viewer of the channel. One way or the other, bullish or bearish, we are going to have a bit of a move down. So again, if we are bearish, from here we're going to get a move down. If we are bullish, odds are we have completed a 5 wave. Hence why I said one way or the other, it's time for a bit of a move down. So let's just wait for this move down to happen, and at that point pay full attention to the shape of our move on the downside. Okay, that in my view is going to be the decider of what is going on in AVAX in this area overall. In case we end up having a very strong move down in form of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 without a lot of overlapping of the waves, and specifically if in this move we take this important low about, let's say, $8.50, okay, at that point odds are this bearish scenario is happening and our move down is going to continue, and once more unfortunately we are going to visit the lows in here about $7.5, $7.7. On the other hand, if we end up having a very slow and choppy move on the downside, which is going to take a couple of days, and also between our pullbacks up in here we're just constantly going to have overlapping of the waves, at that point, okay, maybe there is some room to be optimistic, and from here we can have another move on the upside. But for now, what I can tell you is this: one way or the other, a move on the downside is coming, and even if you want to be bullish, I would highly suggest to just be a little bit more patient and pay full attention to the shape of our move down. For now, based on what I'm seeing, my primary case is this one, suggesting our move down, well, it's going to continue a little bit more. And if you do not care about the short-term price action, and it's really not your concern what might be the next likely move in here, may I suggest just wait quite a bit more and see ultimately, are we going to reclaim this important level, which the higher band of it is somewhere around, let's say, $11.2 or not? Because if we really do have the power to reclaim this important area, odds are, yep, at that point, the bottom is in, and we are looking quite bullish and optimistic. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Avalanche's chart. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.